From the land of Old Bay and overflowing coolers, where dad bods are a badge of honor and Sundays mean football, not yard work, we welcome you to the Dad Bod Sports Cast, where we talk about crab cakes, cold beers, and all the sports talk you can handle. Here are your hosts, guys who know their stats, love their teams, and definitely aren't skipping dessert. Mike Frisky, Jason Weisbecker, and John Lanscraner. Baltimore's best sports podcast starts right now. Gentlemen, how are we tonight? We're going to try to live stream this and see how this rolls. Jason, you had a day in the sun today.
I did. I went to the O's second Grapefruit League game up here in Clearwater against the Phillies. We were victorious, so we should start printing those World Series tickets for the Grapefruit League World Series Championship.
Is that a
Fantastic.
thing? I didn't know that was a thing. Is that a thing?
No, it's not a thing for sure.
Okay.
Yesterday, it all got ruined anyway because they lost a game yesterday anyway. So
yeah, the sky was falling here in Baltimore.
No,
it was like, good, why even play baseball? Like, why even worry about it? Because we're going to lose.
Well, I saw the.
It was,
Go ahead, Jason. I'm sorry. Well, I don't know. Something's lagging on my end. Like I'm not here. I'm trying to figure out what's lagging. But go ahead, Jason. I'm sorry, everyone. We're
just for the record, John. Your mic sounds really bad. I don't know if Mike's getting it or not, but you sound like a robot.
Yeah, we're having some technical difficulties here. Your video's lagging, Jason. So I don't know if it's just because we're trying to go live tonight. Everything's all doing its thing, but.
I don't know. Okay, is that better?
Yes.
Okay. I turned the volume on the mic down. So
my wife tries to do that all the time to me because my name is Mike, but it just doesn't work.
Well, Mike, you sent us a good dad joke yesterday that got some people laughing. You want to open the show with the dad joke you sent us yesterday?
Oh my gosh, you're putting me on the spot, dude. Like I have that up and ready to go.
Well, I remembered it.
Yeah, you tell it.
So good. It was
dad bod test for you.
You don't want to tell it?
No, I'm not doing it. I'm ashamed of you.
Okay,
I'm not doing it.
Of me or Mike? You're saying to me or Mike? I thought this was so good. I told a couple of people at work, and my boss was cracking up. So I'm going to roll with this. I'm going to make the executive decision as the man on the, I don't know, maybe you guys are on the top left corner of your screens too, but on my screen, I'm in the top left corner. So usually that's where you start. So I'm going to go with it. Mike sent us a joke yesterday that I was laughing at work. And the joke goes like this. My friend Sarah left her bottle of Pepsi at a rest stop about 60 miles south of Tampa. That's where Sarasota is. that was so good, Mike. But Sarasota is where the Orioles Spring Training is today. They were in Clearwater playing the Phillies. And Jay, I watched the first 3-4 hitters of the game. What was your analysis of it? I know it's not all the lineup and it's kind of a mixture of minor leaguers, major leaguers, things. But what did you think?
Right. No, I mean, I think they won 7-3, which is the least of anyone's concerns, or at least should be. But no, they look pretty good right out the gate. Colton Cowser, I think he didn't get much of a chance to hit. He got hit twice. I don't think any injuries or anything there. But one of the things, though, Basayo and Mayo, if you guys go back and look at some of their exit velocities on some of these hits, Basayo had two hits or two batted balls where the exit velocity was 113 or better. 113 miles per hour or better. So it's great and all that you're facing pitchers that might not be pitching in the majors or something, but that doesn't change usually how hard the exit velocity is on the ball. Maybe a few miles per hour here. And then Mayo had a single that he ripped that was 110 miles per hour, just about. So these guys are stepping in right away, and I mean, that's pretty hard. As far as pitching goes, Povich pitched extremely well. He didn't allow any hits in the 2 innings that he pitched. I was very impressed right off the bat. Mike, you asked me about Young. He had 2 innings, 1 inning that was 3 up, 3 down. And the other inning, I think he had 2 runners on, and then he got out of it, had a double play. So, yeah, nothing really. Should obviously you put the guys on, but nothing really to be concerned of. He pitched well. There is a guy, I can't remember his first name, but he's from he's from the Mexican League, and he has had 2 games now where he has done extremely well. Last name is Machine, like a machine, and that's how it's pronounced. And he hit a home run in the 2nd inning today, the opposite field, and then he had another hard hit single. Yesterday, I think he had a hit or 2. So he is definitely he's game to play. I don't know. I mean, chances of him making the roster are slim to none, but they might need somebody in the organization for depth at some point. So you never know. He plays short. He plays second. He can play anywhere in the infield. And that's really that's all I got. I was really with the families, so trying to pay attention and get somebody French fries and chicken tenders and all this other nonsense. But it was a good day, and yeah, they've come out the gates pretty good. I'm very impressed so far.
Well, I'm looking here at the box score. I was impressed with Vavra in his first at bat. I think it was something like 13 pitches that he drew a walk on. So that's a good sign that we got some guys who are working the count, who aren't just strikeout guys. We go up there, but then I don't know, how much do you read into this, Jason? And then Mike, this Kerstad 0 for 3 with 2 Ks. Well, are you reading into that at all, or are you just kind of taking it as the first couple games, first couple at bats, Jason?
Absolutely not. I don't read into it at all. It's funny because it's like you get all excited when guys come out the gates and they do this and they do that. But on the negative side, it's nothing really to get concerned about yet. Now, if this happens and he goes 0 for the spring, or he goes 0 for his first 10, I think then you start getting concerned. But these are his first at bats. He did not play yesterday. So yeah, I mean, right out the gates, I'm not too concerned with it yet.
And Mike, what do you think?
Well, I guess going back to Jason, this machine guy, what are the rules about having a machine on the roster? Is that legitimate, or is there a MLB rule that goes against having like a robot?
I'm like one more dad joke away from quitting.
So no, but in all seriousness, Jason, I asked you, I texted you earlier about what you thought about Brandon Young and what you thought about Cade Povich today. What did you see in Cade?
Yeah, I mean, he did a really good job. I mean, obviously he's got a really good changeup, and everything works off of that changeup, and obviously the fastball. So the ability to throw within the strike zone and then keep hitters off balance with that changeup just opens everything else up for him. And I mean, he's not afraid to pitch in the strike zone. He's not afraid to pitch outside of the strike zone. And that's what he did well. I mean, he didn't, like yesterday, Suarez had a hard time finding the zone. He threw, what did I tell you yesterday, 44 pitches or 42 pitches, but only 19 strikes. That's not going to get it done in any league. So Povich didn't screw around. I mean, he he attacked the zone. Everything went off of the changeup and the fastball for those hitless innings, actually.
Well, and here's a good sign, especially with them, moving the wall in right field, or left field to Camden Yards. Povich, 4 groundouts, 0 flyouts. The Orioles pitchers only had 3, 4, 5. Only had 5 flyouts all game, and that's a good sign. because that ball going up in the air in left field, moving it in. I don't have it in front of me how far they're moving it in, but the more ground outs and things that we're getting, that's going to play to our strength, I think, as an infield. What do you think, Mike?
No, I was just going to say, like, a couple of things. Obviously, keeping the ball down. We have one of the better defensive infields in the American League. Get those guys a chance to do their job on the infield and keep your pitch count down. I mean, a lot of our guys get into the high pitch count situations. They can only go 4 or 5 innings. They're pitching well, but we have to yank them because of their pitch count. That gives us an opportunity maybe to stretch into the 6th inning and saves that bullpen. What a advantage that is, rather than pitching your bullpen 4 innings every night.
Absolutely. I think that's huge. But again, I think, Jason, like, what do you think? And granted, they're not playing with a major league infield. We have Machine at third. We had Soto at shortstop. We had Rivera at first, and Vavra and Vasquez at second. But what do you think? I mean, going into the season, I think we could say their infield is probably one of, if not one of the strongest defensively in the league. What do you think, Jason?
Yeah, I mean, I think they're ranked right now from the chart that I looked at that Mike sent over. I think they're ranked the top infield and catching position in baseball. And I mean, just think about it. In your starting lineup, you have 3 players that were drafted as shortstops playing in your infield with Westberg, Gunnar, and Halladay. So if you have 3 guys that if all hell broke loose and everyone got hurt, any 3 of those could take up a couple games at short or longer. I mean, your infield is going to be really good.
Yeah, I think that's a huge thing. But and then again, you look at all the years we talk about, we suck, we're terrible, but then we're hitting on we talked about this a few weeks ago about the differences in the front offices. And look, I mean, we hit on 2 number 1 overall picks, and then Gunnar, and then Gunnar at shortstop, Westberg, Cowser, these guys are performing, it seems like. Mike, I mean, what do you think about this now that we're going to be drafting towards the end of the first round now instead of at the top?
Yeah, I mean, when you're drafting high and you hit on those picks, it sets you up for your future. And like I said, the question just continues to be, beyond the future, when beyond their rookie deal, like, where do we go from there? So, I'm encouraged. It's spring training, game 2. I don't think there's a lot more we can break down at this point. I think we just need to kind of let things develop. It's hard sample size. If you start getting too nitpicky on 1 or 2 games, it's a 162 game season. We can't really see too much at the moment, but it's really exciting to see the boys out there playing again. I listened to a few innings on the radio today. I haven't switched over to my Fubo TV to get my mass in yet. I'm still trying to hang on to YouTube as long as possible because I like YouTube TV a little better, but Fubo covers the Orioles, so the switch has to happen during the spring and summer months.
Yeah, I signed up for the MLB package through MLB.com, and so you can get all the spring training games on there. So, when I'm sitting at my desk making phone calls and things, I'll have the game, just playing. I can watch a little bit of it. But we talked about this, Mike and Jason, this week. We sent over a chart, and basically it's just top infield and catching, top outfield, top starting, top bullpen. And, we're looking at this chart, Jason. The Orioles are looking pretty good.
Yeah, I mean, everybody wants to complain about them not spending money in certain areas and whatnot, but your infield's the top with your catching position is number 1 in all of baseball. You're right above, you're above average in outfield. And then obviously your pitching is, what are they ranked? 22nd pitching, I think, according to that chart. That's where everybody wants to kind of point the fingers. And I get it. I would not be opposed. Obviously, we've talked about this a million times about bringing in a starting pitcher, but clearly with the depth that you have in infield and outfield, you don't want to have to give up from all of that to grab a pitcher. So I mean, right now, to me, with that chart and how well they're doing, John, if you want to give their numbers out, I don't know if you have in front of you, but if you want to give their ranking in each spot, Just
So
it's
so infield and catcher, there I don't know what these numbers come from. Maybe like WARs. I don't know. I have no idea. But pitchers and catchers, they're number one, 21.6. The Jays are second at 20.7. And then the Yankees are all the way down at 12. And the Red Sox are at 20 in infield. And that's including their recent acquisitions. I'm assuming. I don't know for sure. But then outfield, they're 11 at 11.8. The Yankees have the first outfield, but when you got Judge and Stanton out there, difficult to not be at the top. Then starting pitching, the Orioles are at 23, and then bullpen, they're tied for fifth with the Red Sox. So, and granted, this doesn't do anything for on the field performance, Mike, but it is, at least something we're at the top of to start the season.
No, yeah, I think sometimes we're grasping at straws here to talk about some things, but it's cool to see that that MLB projects the Orioles, starting in field and catcher position to be a strength. Obviously, I mean they're so young. It's so encouraging just to see, what is Adley going to do this year? Is he going to have a bounce back season? Is Gunnar going to be able to repeat the performance from last year? What an exciting! He's probably a top, if not 5, top 10 player in baseball right now. Westberg is one of my favorite Orioles already, just because of his approach to the plate. Puts the ball in play. He's always ready to go. And he had a little bit of an injury at the end of last year. And I'm hoping I want to see if he can bounce back from that. And then there's Jackson Holliday as the wild card, right? Like, are we getting Jackson Holliday from last year? Or are we getting all-star Jackson Holliday, or somewhere in between? And I'm just really curious how, he's living up to the Jack part of his name, right? He's jacked up. Is Jackson going to go in there and jack some balls out of the park this year? Is he going to get on base? Is he going to play a really good second base? I mean, I think that's what the number one what the Orioles are looking for. Is he going to go play some, save some runs defensively? Is he going to do that? And then is he going to get on base for these guys, these boppers in the middle of the lineup?
Well, and here's the thing to kind of just have in the back of your head is that technically, look at Jackson Holliday. He's a junior in college, age-wise and experience-wise. Really, Adley's the only guy who's a little bit older, but the rest of them are more or less, seniors and maybe or junior, seniors, maybe super senior in college. So I think we're going to see a huge amount of growth, not just physically from Jackson, but also from then, the psychological standpoint of, okay, this is how they're going to pitch me. This is how I'm going to adjust. Just in talking with some guys that I know, it's their rookie year and even their second year was all about, okay, this is how I have to adjust because now they're adjusting to me. So, Jason, like, what do you think about Holliday now that he's bulked up and things? Is he a top? Is he a leadoff hitter, second hitter, or is he better off in the 7, 8, 9 spot to get on base for the guys up top because he has the speed?
I mean, as far as this year goes, I think to start the season, you'll see him batting towards the middle back of the lineup, 7, 8, 9, probably to start. In my eyes, and I think in the Orioles' eyes, they would love for him to be a leadoff hitter. It's the way the game has changed a little bit. You want your leadoff hitter you want your best hitter to get the most at bats. So that's why, like Acuna, Henderson, these guys lead off. However, if you break it down, it's Holliday, you're hoping to get what Gunnar is. So then he could be your leadoff hitter. So this year, I think he'll bat towards the back. But, I mean, there is nothing – I'm very high on Jackson Holliday. I really think that getting back to work after what happened last year, I think you're going to see some great things. Now, I don't know if he's going to go 30-30 or anything crazy like that, but I think he will be a very, very solid above average major leaguer, maybe like a Westberg year last year. I don't know. Only time will tell as far as that goes. But no, I am very high on him, and I'm very excited.
Well, and I'm getting excited because I'm seeing I got my Fubo TV, and I'm seeing the bracketology coming out now. And I'm really seeing, favorite time of year on March Madness, and I'm going on a cruise next week. So, I don't know how much they're going to have on there. But guys, what are your kind of thoughts on the bracketology? Starting with Mike.
So first of all, I love the Terps, right? We're talking Maryland because we live here, but well, I live here. You guys love it here. Obviously, that's why you moved to Florida. We have a 5 seed right now. Lenardi's prediction right now is 5 versus a 12 seed, and I think Drake, which is a school out of Iowa. Shout out to Colin. But I think that's a pretty good draw. If they win, they'll have St. John's, which is a really tough team, I think, in the Big East, kind of underrated right now. And then it says Alabama's the 1 seed in their region, which is a scary team, honestly. If you're talking about number 1 overall seeds, Auburn, Duke, Florida, Alabama right now. Right now, that's 3 SEC schools. I don't see 3 SEC schools getting 1 seeds in this tournament. I know that it's the strongest conference in the country, but I just think it's too biased one way. I think you'll see whoever wins the regular season. And then I think Auburn right now has the inside track, but I think it's between maybe Florida and Alabama, between the 2 of them to get the second 1 seed. Whoever has the better end of the regular season, or maybe one of those 2 wins the conference tournament, they get the other SEC 1 seed. And for me, Duke in the ACC is the best team. If there's a way for Louisville, if there's a way for Clemson maybe to sneak in there, there's possible to grab a 1 seed, but more than likely not, maybe a 2 or 3 for those schools. And then for me, as far as the Big Ten's concerned, all the schools have a few losses. It'd be really tough to break into the 1 seed line. I see the Big Ten on the 2 line somewhere. And honestly, if you're going to ask me who's going to replace that one of the 3 SEC teams, it's going to be Houston out of the Big 12. I think they've had a really good year in a pretty good conference. And if they win their conference tournament, I really think that the 4th number 1 seed is theirs.
Jay, what do you think? I mean, all the guys on TV and stuff are saying basically the same thing that Mike's saying, that the 3 SEC schools are going to be in there, and then Duke. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, the SEC is so good. It's very tough not to, but you can only, like, one of those teams just inevitably isn't going to make it to the semifinals in their conference tournament, which means they're going to get knocked down a little bit. And that'll be what the committee is actually hoping on, so that they don't have to make that decision. But like, they could go so deep. And look at the coaches in that division. I mean, Nate Oates at Alabama, Bruce Pearl at Auburn, and then Calipari's at Arkansas. Now, they're not going to get a 1 seed, and I mean, what? But like, there's in Tennessee with Rick Barnes. Tennessee could steal a 1 seed if they win the SEC tournament. So anything can happen as far as that goes. So it's funny. I feel like everything is going to go off of what happens in the SEC tournament. The Big Ten, Mike, you're right. I don't think anyone's getting a 1 seed. Duke is one of the best 5 teams in the country, probably one of the top 3 teams in the country. So they will, as long as they don't get knocked out early in the ACC tournament, they'll probably grab a 1 seed. Houston is actually the other team I thought of as well. So it's funny because, I mean, as far as making deep runs, any of those teams I just said are capable of making a deep run there. And then there's some other teams like Maryland. I'm very high on Maryland, and not because I'm a homer, but because of their lineup consistency that we've been talking about, and those bigs and being able to move. They can beat you in so many different ways. So if their 3-point shooting is off, that's okay. They have a mid-range game, and those bigs can play. If they can't get the ball inside of the bigs, then they'll 3-point shoot you to death. So I think I saw the other day, 3 guys on the Terps are shooting 40% or better from beyond the arc. I mean, that's the kind of numbers that'll get you through the NCAA tournament and into the second weekend. So yeah, I mean, that's one of my teams that I'll be keeping an eye on, obviously. But like, when I was doing some research last night, like, UNC's on the outside looking in. Like, that's a blue blood that it's almost like the tournament's not the same without them. So to me, that would be a big mistake there.
Well, I'm looking at this, and there's but there's 16 teams in the SEC total, and the bracketology is saying they're going to have 12 of those 16 teams in the tournament. And then my backup question for you guys, and we'll start with Mike, is what do you think about all this conference realignment? Like, the ACC used to be getting what almost 75 to 80% of their teams in, and now you have Maryland leaving, etc. And you got the SEC with 12 schools now. Like, what's your take on this, Mike?
It's kind of hard to compare the two, the way it used to be and the way it is now when you're talking about number of schools versus bids and in the conferences. The thing that I miss, being a Terps fan, is Sunday night watching the same schools, on ACC Sunday night hoops. Like, I miss the NC State twice a year. I miss Clemson twice a year. I miss the format where you're playing regionally and you're playing rivals. So when you see Maryland play Oregon and you're like, wow, that's a Big Ten game. Like, it's very confusing because isn't the Big Ten the Midwest? Oh, wait, the Maryland's on the East Coast and Oregon's on the West Coast. How does that make sense? Well, it's all driven by money, right? And the TV markets that these conferences want. Now the Big Ten has a market on the East Coast in some of the bigger cities there, and on the West Coast in some of the bigger cities there. Is it good for college sports? I don't know. Money, I guess, is good for college sports. For me as a fan, I miss the old conferences. I miss the regional. I don't know. I guess it offsets the travel cost to have all this TV money, because and that obviously they're planning these road trips. I know Maryland went out to Oregon and Washington back to back, so I guess they're planning these kind of road trips for some of these larger swings across the coast. But I can't imagine that isn't a financial burden at some point as well. And then, lastly, like I said, is rivalries. Like, it's just I miss playing teams once on your home court and once away every year, and really seeing who's the best between Duke and North Carolina is still there, obviously. But it used to be Maryland, Duke, Maryland, Virginia. If you look at the other conferences, I'm seeing SMU in the ACC. I'm like, what is going on? So it gets confusing a little bit, but also I just miss some of the matchups that used to be. And real quick, before I move on from NCAA, I got to shout out to my Towson Tigers, because if you looked at the bracketology, they're a number 14 seed right now, leading their conference. I got to see them play in December. I watched them play Bryant, who's also leading their conference right now. It was a really good game. They have some really good players this year. Dustin May just went off the last game, and they're going to have a good little run if they can win their conference tournament. I'd love to see them in the tournament.
I was just going to ask you about that, Mike. I saw the Towson shirt, and I saw the Tigers were, gonna be in the tournament. Assuming, I mean, they got to win. They got to win their conference tournament, obviously. But it looks like a good chance of both of them going in. And as a 14, Mike, could they surprise people?
I mean, they're built. Their squad is built. They have a big guy, Tejada. They have some 3-point shooting. If they can avoid being a 15, 16, if they can get a 14 seed or something like that, they can. I think they're right now supposed to play Texas Tech, according to Lenardi. Like, that's something that's possible. I'm not saying it's probable, but it's definitely possible.
Well, yeah, that we'll see. We'll see what happens. Crazy things happen this time of year, So, Jason, just real quick. Are you in on the 3 SEC team, number 1, and then Duke, or do you have a different number 1 prediction?
No, I do. I think it'll be, if I had to guess, I think it'll be 2 SEC teams, Duke and Houston. We'll take the 4th seed, the 4th number 1 seed.
Okay.
Great minds think alike, Jason. Well done.
I know, man. I'm telling you.
Yeah, I was just gonna go with the experts and go 3 SEC teams and Duke, but you guys have a lot more maturity and time watching the NCAA tournament than I do. So I'll go with you guys for sure. So, what's your too early prediction, Mike? Who's winning this thing? Who's the Cinderella and who's winning?
Oh boy. So I think if you're looking overall for a team that can make a run out of the SEC, I'd say like a Tennessee type team, like maybe one of those mid-range SEC schools could make a run. Florida's not really mid-range; they're pretty good. They could make a deep run. I like Maryland in the Big Ten to make a run. especially like Jason said with their balance. If you're looking at a kind of not really a surprise team, but kind of an underrated team in my eyes, it's St. John's in the Big East. The Big East didn't have quite the number of good teams this year as sometimes it does, but you're still playing UConn twice. You're playing Creighton. So you're playing some good schools, and Marquette, which Maryland lost to this year, and St. John's has handled. So that would be another team I'd say to look out for come tournament time. Overall winner, I'd have to say, gosh, I'm going to go, let's say an SEC school because they're all kind of battle tested down there in the SEC, and I'm just going to pick the Florida Gators because they've been there before.
I think that's probably pretty good prediction. Jay, what are you thinking?
Yeah, I mean, this is why Mike can't go first. He took all the teams I was going to say, just about. I mean, obviously, like for sleeper wise, Maryland is high on my list, but St. John's, but with Rick Pitino's team, talk about being there, multiple national championships. I'm really high on them being able to make a little bit of a run. The other team though is they're not going to go in as a high seed, but I don't think you can count them out until you beat them. Is UConn. Very well coached, and I think UConn, if they get in there and win a couple games, then you have to pay attention to them. But as far as who I think, based on where we are right now, I'm always big on having the best player in the country. I think Cooper Flagg is one of the best, if not the best, player in the country. So yeah, as unpopular as this is going to sound, as of right now, and I do think that I am allowed to change my mind, but as of right now, I'm going to say that Shire gets over the hump and that Duke wins the national championship.
I think that my prediction is that it's going to be like an Auburn, like Alabama or something final, something not too sexy. But I think that a team like Ohio State, who currently they have as a 10 seed, could easily come out of there and make a run at it, because those Big Ten schools always beat up on each other. They're good. They're good basketball teams. They just win, lose against each other, and then that drives them down a little bit in the rankings and whatnot. But we'll have to see. You know what they say, in March anything can happen. So we'll have to wait and see, and it's only a few days away. But we're gonna try a new a new segment on our show. Jason or Mike, do you want to introduce our new segment while I get it ready?
Sure. So we're going to talk a little bit about how we got our dad bods. And I think it's important to really bring you into our world. Jason's starting to do that right now and nibble a little bit. We're going to call this segment Crunch Time in honor of our favorite snacks. And, while we have the show going on in our studios, we have each brought one of our favorite snacks to kind of nibble on. We don't want to make too much noise in the microphone here, boys, but we want to talk a little bit about what we brought to eat and then kind of give it a rating, on the snack meter, the munch-o-meter maybe, and kind of tell us what you did and why. So, Jason, why don't you start us off? You were the first one nibbling. Let's tell us what you got there.
Yeah, see, mine's going to be different, though, because I am a diabetic, and I am fat, and I am old. So instead of, as much as I want to grab like Doritos or Starburst or something that would instantly kill me, I have made a plate of little cheddar cheeses and uncured Sopressata salami. And I have all kinds of different mustards to dip it in. So that's what my life has turned into, charcuterie plates instead of Doritos Tasty Ranch.
Well, you go high class, Jason. You always have gone high class, so it makes sense that your snack is high class. But I do not envy the choices you have to make, and I can definitely respect that. John, I know that you went out of your way to get a special snack today. Can you share what you got?
Yes, I went to Krispy Kreme. Is a Krispy Kreme just down the street from where I work, and they have a Hulu movie theater box now. So I chose tonight. I chose a cream filled with something. I don't know what it's filled with, but it's got caramel corn on it. I had one last night that was it had cookie dough on it with like a chocolate filling. And then there's one that my son ate that is, as he described it, tasted like a Slurpee. So we're gonna try this. Haven't tried one before, so can't go wrong with Krispy Kreme though.
I think the danger there, John, is whenever you don't know what the filling is, that sounds like something that I'd be a little concerned about. So why don't you give us a bite and tell us what you got going in there?
Well, like I always say, donuts are like a box of chocolates. You never know what you're gonna get.
All right, Forrest, take a bite. What you got in there?
It's just like white cream. It's just a just a basic cream filled donut.
All right, John. I'm gonna move us on from your white cream donut to my snack of the night, which is a generic, middle-aged man snack. So I've got these Big Dippers. They are a Aldi's brand of what you might call Tostitos, but Ursa Major over here, my Big Dipper. And I think they're very similar in size and composition. I think the biggest thing with these is the pocket. You have to have a deep enough pocket to get enough dip in there, because we don't eat the chip for the chip. The chip is a vessel for what we're trying to get into the chip. And today I have Casa Mamita queso here, which is just your basic, I guess, Tostitos brand queso. I think Casa Mamita means mama's house or something like that. And I am dipping into that tonight. And I think it might hurt me in my sleep later on, but for now it feels good.
Fabulous.
I believe Casa Mamita means like little mommy's house or something. So I don't know if they're going after like little Debbie and just trying to be like the little Debbie of chip dip. I don't know. We would have to ask your high school Spanish teacher about that one.
I believe it's the Aldi brand, isn't it, Mike?
Is it what? It's Aldi's,
Isn't
yeah.
it the Aldi brand, yeah.
The Aldi's brand, man. Listen, I'm a gym teacher. I don't, we're not setting the world on fire with our finances. So this is what we do. And you can pour the cheese on the lid, so you don't have to get your hand all cheesy to dip in those. It's just a little suggestion from one dad to another.
Dude, I know people that poo-poo on Aldi, and you guys are nuts. Okay, first of all, that place, like, yes, they may not have all your name brand potato chips and all that other nonsense, but you can save a fortune. And like, you can get grass-fed beef and steaks and stuff that are like $10 a pound. You can't do that at the grocery store. I mean, if they're grass-fed, they're like $15 a pound. So maybe try it out, see if you like it, and go from there. You can also get organic fruits and vegetables at a reasonable price. So there's my plug for
I love that. Keep that up, and we might have them as a sponsor, Jay.
Who knows? No more free talk for them, though.
You got to bring your quarter, though, for the buggy, because you don't bring your – I made that mistake today. I felt horrible, right? So Josh and I stood in the Aldi parking lot, and we waited for someone to bring their cart out because we didn't have a quarter. But, some nice gentleman, a little older gentleman, maybe about 70 years old, had an oxygen tank, was super polite, was like, hey, you need a cart? I was like, you are the man. You are the man. I didn't bring my bags. You had to bring your own shopping bags. So I just go around and pick the boxes out of the bins and then pack the boxes. And then, just give them a little ride out to my F-150, and we figure out a way to get them in the house without a bag. So, but Aldi's is a nice little adventure.
Well, and their sister store, Trader Joe's, between those two stores, you get all the drinks, all the food, everything that you could ever want. And down here, Jay, I looked at the bill one time. If I bought at Publix what I bought at Aldi's, I would spend at least 3 times what I spend at Aldi.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's very expensive.
But after our snack time, are you guys feeling refreshed? Did you guys bring a drink of choice tonight?
Whoa. Well, we
No.
can't move on to drink of choice yet. I need you to rate your snack on a scale of
Oh.
1 to 5 on the munch meter. So,
The munch meter, yes.
yeah.
I think
So, John,
I
I'm
think
very curious about your snack and where you would put that on your 1 to 5. 1 being horrible, I'll never eat that ever again. 5 being I want it in an IV constantly in my body.
I think probably I'll give it like a 3. I wasn't thrilled because maybe if it's fresh and the corn and the caramel popcorn's a little more crisp, it was a little soggy. But I got them last night, so that's why I give it a 3.5. I'm not going to give it a 3 or a 2, but and it had a little piece of that corn stuff stuck in my tooth that I'm trying to get out now. So
Sabotage.
3.5.
Yeah.
Yes.
Jason?
I'm going to go 7.8. It is delicious. I love it. I actually eat it sometimes for meals so that I don't eat carbs. But yeah, so 7.8. It's delicious.
On a scale of 1 to 5, it's a 7.8. Got it.
Yeah.
Perfect. All right. So, mine's a solid 3. It's nice because it's convenient. It's a go-to kind of snack. I like that there's something to dip. Whenever there's something to dip, it makes me happy. Is it the best thing I've ever? No.
Mm-hmm.
But
Mike, do you heat it up? Is it better hot or just like room temperature or like fridge temperature?
So my favorite is room temperature, but the problem with room temperature is when you open it initially, you can get it room temperature, right? Because it came right from the store. It's on the shelf. It's sealed. But then you either have to heat it or put it in the fridge. So after that, you're kind of stuck one way or the other. So it's cold right now. I'd rather have it a little warmer than it is currently.
Oh, yeah. I would prefer it like hot, like the stadium hot, like nachos at Camden Yards or something like that. Or M&T Bank, which leads us into our next topic, which is, or no, gentlemen, I'm sorry, I forgot. What are you drinking to go with your snack?
I'm not drinking. I have nothing.
Oh,
I have something. I mean, I didn't know I have my water bottle, and here's the thing: I don't love water. I know you're supposed to drink it because it's healthy. So I put a little strawberry lemonade in the bottom and mostly water, so it makes me feel like I'm being healthy, but there's still some unhealthy in it, and that's I think what you got to do when you have a dad bod.
And I'm drinking a Long Island iced tea out of my Ravens Tervis tumbler.
Man, John.
All right.
Yeah, I gotta get it. I gotta get it. So, gentlemen, here's kind of the next thing we've been talking about. Is the Ravens, obviously have a quarterback who should be a 3-time MVP award winner and got robbed again this year. But the backup last year was a 38-year-old journeyman who I forgot to look up how many teams he's been on, but I think he started with the Bucks, then went to the Vikings, and now he's been on at least a dozen teams in the league. Jason, I don't remember exactly how many, but seems like he's had about every jersey hanging on his wall.
Yeah, I mean, he's been on it's at least in the teens, I believe. And he's been on some of those teams multiple times. Josh Johnson. I mean, he's a reliable backup for what you need and what you have to do. That's why teams keep bringing him in. But it's funny because if we lose Lamar Jackson, if the Ravens lose Lamar Jackson during the season's over. It doesn't matter who your backup quarterback is. However, that's if you lose them for like 8, 9, 10, 11 games and towards the end of the year. But if you need a guy to come in and play 1 or 2, maybe even 3 games, Josh Johnson is definitely capable of doing that.
Well, I just looked it up. Josh Johnson has been on 14 NFL teams, as well as the teams on the United Football League and the XFL. So he started with Tampa Bay. Then he went to Cleveland, Cincinnati, Washington, New York, Baltimore, He's been on Baltimore 3 different times, 3 different seasons. He was in Baltimore 16, 21, and 23. 49ers, Broncos, Colts, Bills, Giants, Texans, and Lions. I was incorrect when I said he had played for the Vikings. I, for some reason, thought he had played for the Vikings. 14 teams. So, Mike, I guess my question for you is Huntley the ideal person to try to get back behind Jackson, or do we try to roll with a guy like Josh Johnson and like we talked about last week, the guy we drafted last year in the 6th, 7th round?
Leary, yeah. I think
Yeah.
so, just to kind of paint with an overall brush, what we're doing right now is we're kind of going position by position, and quarterback's what we're starting with today. Just kind of preview each position group a little bit this off season. And if I were sitting there as GM, I'd want to upgrade from Josh Johnson. And there's a couple of reasons why. Obviously, we talked about his age, but there is a crop of free agent quarterbacks that shouldn't be super expensive, I wouldn't think, this offseason for backups. Now, obviously, there's a lot of teams who want a good backup quarterback. You asked me about Tyler Huntley. I have him down on my list as somebody that I would accept as a backup. He isn't my preference. So as I went through, Spot Track and kind of went through who the free agent quarterbacks were, I'm going to give you a list of my top 10. How about that? So number 1, Marcus Mariota. To me, his skill set's very similar in the fact that he likes to run the ball. He can run some of the read option stuff. If he can play, like Jason said, 3 games for you and get you through that stretch, be maybe 2-1. I think that's all you can ask for. Taylor Heineke, I think, has a similar skill set to that. He's someone in his mid-age, 30-ish, that could do something like that. Cooper Rush did a good job with Dallas last year. He's a free agent. He's someone I'd look at. What about Daniel Jones? He can run the ball a little bit. He had a high ceiling at the beginning of his career. Obviously, fell from grace rather quickly in New York. The Vikings picked him up, but he's someone who possibly would be available. I'd be curious to hear your thoughts on this, Jason. Trey Lance, somebody who was, a top draft pick and didn't pan out, obviously, and then went to Dallas this last year as a backup. Be curious to see how he'd fit, similar to some of the skill set that Lamar has. I think the Ravens should be thinking kind of that way. How about Russell Wilson? I don't know if the Steelers are retaining him or Justin Fields or both. I think Fields will be too highly priced either way for us. But Wilson might come as a backup. I don't know if he'll be outpriced as well. How about famous Jameis in Cleveland? He's a funny guy. That's one thing. I would just like to come here so I could hear his sound bites. But is he the ideal guy to play 16, 17, 18 games for you? No. He's going to throw as many interceptions as he does touchdowns, probably. But can he fill in a gap for your team and probably, do a good job of keeping you in the game? More than likely. And then I have Huntley, Carson Wentz, and Jimmy G to round out my top 10 list there. I'd say no thank you to what's his name? Wilson from the Jets that was drafted a couple years ago. I'm out on that guy. Out on Jacoby Brissett. Out on Drew Lock. Joe Flacco's too old. Case Keenum's too old. Mason Rudolph I never liked as a Steeler. Plus he's named after a reindeer. I'm out on that.
Yeah, hide your Cougars if Wilson would come here. Your older women gotta hide them because he evidently enjoys the older women. Jason, what do you think?
Well, out of all those guys there, I mean, obviously they're going to sign someone, right? They're going to sign one of those guys in my eyes. Just listening to what Mike was saying in the research I did before, there's 3 guys that are actually 4 guys that jump out right away. Josh Johnson, I think, is either number 1 or number 2 on their list. Familiarity, I mean, that's comfortability to me and price too. It's all going to come down to price. So to me, if I'm the Ravens, thinking like the Ravens, he might be on the top of their list to come back. But they also had interest in 2 guys during the year that they missed out on, Trey Lance and Daniel Jones. And I think those guys are very high on their list to come in above Marcus Mariota, because I think Marcus Mariota is going to come down to price. I think he's going to be expensive because he's kind of proven in some games. Didn't he play 1 or 2 games this year, or the majority of the games when he got hurt? And he did very well. All 4 of those guys fit into this offense that the Ravens are running. and what they want to do. Some of these other guys like Taylor Heineke can move a little bit, but Jameis Winston, I mean, he's a statue. He doesn't fit in this type of offense. So to me, it comes down to Johnson, Lance, Daniel Jones, and Mariota. And if I had to rank who I really think the Ravens are, I think they're going to end up with Josh Johnson if he wants to come back. If he doesn't, I think they make a run at Trey Lance. I think he is high on their list. And then, which could be good, could be bad. Like, he hasn't had to win any games yet in the NFL. Like, he hasn't came in as a backup quarterback. And, you know, there might be some teams out there that think he could be a starter somewhere. So I don't know. But to me, if I'm choosing, I would go with Trey Lance. I think he'd be a pretty good backup for them. But I do think they'll end up with Josh Johnson.
Yeah, I think that's how we're going to end up, just simply because of the cap space situation. And we kind of found, I mean, it seems like just repeating like a broken record, but I think Lance would fit well because he would be, you know, somebody who hasn't, he doesn't have a ton of miles on him. He hasn't taken a ton of hits. B, he's still 27, 28. And I think that, you know, he ideally he would be somebody who, you know, could be here for, you know, obviously everybody wants to start, but he could be somebody who's here for the long term. Plus he's not on a veteran contract yet or anything like that, which is going to be end up being a cap space issue, I think, in the long run, you know. But you also got to think about this, Jason, kind of to your point of fitting in the offense, is you can also just turn the ball around and hand it off. I mean, we got three solid running backs back there who could, on any given play, take the ball to the house. You know,
right. But then, I mean, you have to keep the defense honest. You have to open up that run by being able to throw a little bit. And the reason why I think that they're interested in one of these other guys is because they can move around a little bit. And it sounds like there's some question marks on who's going to be playing where on the offensive line again. So until that gets solidified, you want somebody that can move around a little bit and not just take hits.
Yeah, and now we have above average receiving core without the tight. I mean, for years, Mike, we were a tight end only. You know, we had an above average tight end and a below average receiving core. But now I think, you know, as a backup, you come in behind Lamar Jackson, knowing that if I get called in the game, I got at least 3 guys who can catch the ball of Pro Bowl caliber, plus the guys behind me.
Sure.
Pretty good to an old guy.
I mean, yeah, like anyone would want to come into that situation where you have a running game, you have tight ends, you have wide receivers who can make plays, you get yak yards, but you have to be able to protect the football. You have to be able to execute the offense without making mistakes. I think decision making is the number one thing with a quarterback. So regardless of the weapons around you, you still got to make good decisions. I looked a little bit about I did some research draft wise. So like if the Ravens decide not to go, you know, QB backup, you know, free agency wise, you know, I think there's a possibility that they go draft. You know, I don't think I don't think they're gonna go, you know, early in the draft, but it could be a mid to late round draft pick that they use on one, or maybe even an undrafted free agent potentially. So I did a shallow dive. Jalen Milroe is my dream guy from Alabama. He said he's got all the tools, right? He'll probably go a little too early for the Ravens. Inconsistent, they said, maybe needs to sit behind somebody. That'd be a good person to sit behind Lamar Jackson, league MVP, learn how to play football. I love this guy, and Jason, I know you're a Notre Dame fan, but Riley Leonard's a dual threat guy. He runs a 4.52. I think he's the 6th quarterback, maybe projected like 104 overall. So maybe a mid-round, 4th-round pick or something like that. If you have an extra, I know they have 11 draft picks going in. Maybe they want to have a young guy that they bring along for 3 or 4 years. Dylan Gabriel from Oregon. He was at Oklahoma before that. He's not quite the same mold as those other guys, but he can run the ball a little bit, and he's athletic. And then there are 2 guys undrafted looking around like 12th, 13th quarterback overall. They're mobile guys. One runs a 4.58, and that's Donovan Smith from Houston. And then Kevin Jennings from SMU runs a 4.6. So they're both mobile pocket passer type quarterbacks, strong arms, good weapons, but kind of unpolished. So maybe they look to bring one of those two guys in here on a undrafted free agent deal. So that's a possibility as well.
I mean, that's where we found Huntley. Huntley was undrafted out of Utah, and I think he is probably did the best of any backup quarterback in terms of, still not having to change this offense. I think that's going to be our big thing is, we have to find somebody who can still run the same offense without having to, like you guys alluded to, make it one dimensional where they just stack the box with, 7-8 guys and then try to, end up stopping the run. And we had a listener send us a request in. I don't remember who that was to. Who read that? Was that you, Jason?
It was to our Instagram page. It was a private message to all of us.
Yeah, I know the gentleman's name's Eric. Really good guy. I actually played some baseball with him back in the day at good old Overly Rec Council. Shout out to that. But he was asking about Justin Tucker, right, John?
Yes, he was asking about. Seems like same topic every week, except we get more women every week. So I don't know, Jason. Is there much more to this, or anything else that you think we need to discuss?
I mean, the one thing that we didn't really, I touched on it just a little bit, was the Ravens' perspective of all of this. Everybody's talking about Justin Tucker and how it's going to affect Justin Tucker. But the question was more aligned to, and Mike, correct me if I'm wrong, but it was more along the lines of like, what are the Ravens going to do? Why haven't they said anything? Stuff like that. And again, the Ravens haven't addressed anything because they don't have to. Let me just be clear. And I'm not knocking on Eric. I mean, there's many other people that if you listen to these call-in radio stations, they feel like the Ravens need to take a stance on this. I don't think they do. And I don't think they should until they have to. And once they have to, it's really going to come in the fact of, Justin, thank you very much for all your years of service. We're going to go ahead and cut you probably June 1st. But I don't see how they don't do that. There's no, like, the NFL is now in Baltimore launching their own investigation. That's not good. So I think the time that he is spending here is over, and the Ravens will eventually act, but it'll be to save the money that they can in June 1st, unless the NFL, if the NFL forces their hand, I don't know how that, if he gets suspended, if he stays on the roster because he's suspended, or if the Ravens can cut him. I don't know how that would work specifically.
So here's how this works, guys. I just looked this up. So they don't actually save any money. They still owe him $7.5175 million. If they cut him without a June 1st designation, he would trigger that entire amount. If he's cut after June 1st, they'll take a $2.8725 million charge in 2025 and a $4.645 million charge in 2026. So all it does is basically spread it out. But then I don't know if he's suspended or whatever, does that money go away, or is there a caveat in the CBA that does anything, Mike? Do you know?
No, I don't know. I don't know the answer to that, but I do know that the Ravens will make the decision that makes the best fiscal sense for the Ravens. And I'm with Jason. They really don't have to say anything right now. The only problem is that they said something about Deshaun Watson, and they stuck their nose out there probably when they should have just kept quiet and did their own thing. So now people have unreasonable expectations about what they should do and shouldn't do. We're not the morality police, but now they feel like maybe they acted that way, so they should behave that way. I think you still have to allow due process to occur. And then if things turn out the way that we think they will, you make that cut June 1st, and you spread that salary out over 2 years. So it allows you to be a little more successful each of the next 2 seasons versus taking that big old hit right now.
Well, and I think if they cut Tucker, we talked about this um, just amongst ourselves the other day, is there's a few good veteran kickers out there, but if you're having to pay Tucker, almost 2.5 million this year and almost 5 million next year, it would make more sense to find somebody late in the draft or as an undrafted free agent who you're not going to have to pay a lot to. But I don't know. I mean, I don't know. Well, since they just came out with the cap space, what the Ravens are going to do. You're shaking your head, Jay. What do you think?
No, cost of doing business, man. Really, honest to God. Like, think about it. Like, if you cut a guy, you're not cutting a guy necessarily to save money. You're cutting a guy to not spend more money. So if they still need a guy that can put the ball through the uprights. They're not going to just rely only on somebody. Now, let me say this. I don't think they're going to sign a kicker for $7 million or $4 million. They're going to go out, pick from that list of guys, bring them in to compete with someone that they're probably drafting. And then they'll go from there. But I don't think they're going to put all their eggs in the draftable basket. That's not the Ravens' way of doing things.
Especially with a Super Bowl caliber team. You have a Super Bowl caliber team. I know that they got lucky with Justin Tucker the last time that happened, but like you said, you bring him in to compete. And if he wins the job, he wins the job. But you bring in a Zane Gonzalez, a Matt Prater, a Brandon McManus, one of those guys on the list, and you let them compete. You probably, like you said, you probably don't get the guy on the top of that list, but you find someone in the middle probably, and then let them compete for the job.
Yeah, that's more so what I meant than saying they're just going to draft one guy. No, I think they bring in, maybe they hold an open tryout, Mike, and an old soccer player like you could go out there and give it a whirl, huh? What do you think?
Have you ever tried to kick a field goal? It is not an easy thing to do. I have my phys ed classes we'll even use the little footballs, and we have trouble making 30-yarders through the uprights. That is a skill set I do not have.
So you're not going to go on. You wouldn't when you were at college. You wouldn't have gone on with Kirk Herbstreit and tried to kick a 30-yarder for $500,000 or anything like that.
I would have gone on, but I would have missed. Yes.
Oh, okay.
Because anytime anyone offers you a chance at $500,000, I'd say not anytime, but close to any time, you take it.
So, yeah, I just think that the Ravens are going to have to make that decision, but they're going to wait till June 1st. I just don't. There's no other way to do it. They just don't have to. A, they don't have to, like you said, Jason. B, they need all the cap space they can get, and unfortunately, that's how it's got to roll. But that's going to roll us into our final segment of the evening. And gentlemen, do you have your players ready? Your blast from the past trivia, where we're picking an Orioles player who you may have forgotten was on the Orioles at one point in time, and we're gonna give some clues about this player. So, Mike. So I forgot to ask this, and I think our audience may be interested. Who's the eldest member of our crew here? Jason?
That guy down there, Jason.
Because you guys graduated together in high school, but Jason's a little bit older.
Yeah, I got held back in kindergarten. Okay. It was by the family, not by the school. I went to public school. That should speak for itself. Sorry, Mike. It didn't work out for me.
So you didn't have Mrs. Sanders.
I did. I had her when I went to kindergarten the second time.
Oh, okay. I had Mrs. Sanders for kindergarten as well.
It's all good, Jason. It's all good. You are still where you are sitting today, and you get to go first apparently because you're the elder statesman.
Oh man. Okay. All right, so this fella came to the Orioles in 1993 for one season after it was his 11th year in the majors, after spending the previous time in the American League West. He's a two-time All-Star. He was a three-time Gold Glover. He led the American League in stolen bases in 1987. That's what I'm going to give you guys to start off.
Mark McLemore? No.
Nope.
Harold
He's trying.
Reynolds.
Who?
Harold Reynolds.
You got it.
Hey.
Well done. Well done.
All right.
Who's next?
I'm next. Here I go.
So what do you got,
You
Mike?
guys ready for this? You all ready for this? Dun, dun, dun.
Yes.
Here we go. I made my big league debut September 1st, 1989 as a defensive replacement at catcher. This was not for the Orioles at that point. I have a career batting average of 254, career 33 homers, 176 RBI in 12 major league seasons with the O's, Red Sox, Twins, Expos, and Phillies. And I was one of a few major leaguers wearing the number 42 for the O's when MLB retired Jackie Robinson's number for all teams in 1997.
Lenny Webster.
Ding, ding, ding. We have a winner.
Lenny Webster.
Wow.
Oh, man. Solid.
I love Lenny Webster, man. Him and Chris
Wow.
Hoyles, that duo, that was excellent.
I loved Chris Hoyles. Then they got rid of him and stole Charles Johnson from the Marlins. All right. So here is mine. He played for the Cubs, Indians, Padres, Blue Jays, Orioles, and Giants. He was a shocker. He attended Wichita State University. He was drafted in 1981 by the Chicago Cubs and played for the Cubs 1983. He is a Canadian Hall of Famer, but not a Major League Baseball Hall of Famer. He hit... Where did I put? He hit 259, 2,184 hits, 396 home runs. He is one of two players to do this in a World Series.
Did he play in the World Series? Wait. So how long was he with the Orioles? I feel like that's important for us to say about
a number of. He was with the Orioles for about half a season. He split his season. He split his season with the Orioles and between the Orioles and the Giants.
Oh man.
I mean, Will Clark did that, but I don't think he played on all those teams.
Will Clark was on the Giants first.
Right.
So this gentleman was on the Orioles.
Oh.
And then he's famous for playing for another AL team.
What year did he play for the Orioles? Can you tell us that or not?
1998.
Oh my.
He and
Joe Carter.
Joe Carter.
Yes. Yeah, him and Bill Mazeroski from the Pittsburgh Pirates 1956 World Series. Only two men to hit a walk-off home run to win the World Series.
Fabulous.
I thought that was going to be a little tough. I thought that was going to be a little tough for you guys because I forgot about that.
He flashed in my brain, Joe Carter, but then I did not know he was drafted by the Cubs.
He was only so it's funny because he was drafted by the Cubs and only played 23 games because he hit $170. Then they traded him to the Indians.
Yep.
And then he went to he really didn't succeed in Major League Baseball until he was in Toronto in 91.
Well, wait, wasn't he on the Padres with Alomar and then he came over from Toronto?
Hang on. Let me see.
Or no, am I wrong?
Yes, no, he was traded for Alomar. So he was on the Indians from 84 to 89. He was traded to the Padres for Sandy Alomar, Carlos Baerga, and Chris James. The Padres subsequently dealt him to the Blue Jays with Robbie Alomar for Fred McGriff and Tony Fernandez.
Right.
Yes.
The crime dog.
Yes. And then he was only on the Orioles for not even half a season.
Right.
Before then they traded him to the
Giants.
The Giants, yes, sir. Yes, sir. So there's, throughout the history, there's some interesting players who are on the Orioles for just a very short amount of time.
Yeah, I think.
You know?
I mean, we could definitely do this for a while. It is a fun little exercise, it's a fun game. I know Mike had mentioned maybe including the Ravens down the road. We can definitely do that too. But yeah, no, that's fun. Good job.
Good job, gentlemen. Well, Mike, I have to work tomorrow. I think you have to work tomorrow as well. I don't think you're going to have a snow day or anything in February.
No, it was actually getting close to 50 degrees up here in Maryland today. So you guys are sending some heat up here. Keep that coming. Appreciate that. I saw a daffodil the other day. That's exciting. So
Wow.
bring on the spring.
Yep. But here this last week, it was in the 30s. It was in the 30s here in Florida, and everybody's putting their parkas on. And then now it's back, and now it's getting warm again. So that means it's baseball season. And Jason, just real quick before we end, how are you going to try to go and attend a Rays game at Steinbrenner Field in July when the Orioles go?
I think they're there in June first before that.
Okay.
They are.
They have a 4-game series in June, and then I think they go back in July. I would like to. The only issue with that is how hot it is, and I mean it rains at any time here during the summer, usually once a day. So it's going to be interesting how that all works. But no, I plan on going because it's only 20 minutes for me. So
yeah. Well, and I think the Rays, I mean, that's just a better location. I mean, this has nothing to do with our pockets, but that's just a better location to have a baseball game because it's hour 20 minutes from Orlando, where you live in St. Pete's, forever. So
I disagree. I live a block away from the stadium, and if they played here, it'd be fabulous. Fabulous.
Yeah.
I could walk there.
I live 15 hours away or something like that, so I don't care where the Rays play.
There you go.
There you go. Well, gentlemen, it's been a pleasure. We're gonna sign off here from Dad Bod's Crab Cakes and Sports. We really appreciate all of you listening, for giving us some of your time. Find us on social media at dadbods_crabcakes_sports on Instagram. We're on Facebook, and you can find us on all of the major podcasting sites: Apple, Spotify, Amazon Music, or wherever you get your podcasts. For the dads, the dad bods, the four of us, thanks again. And remember, keep rooting for the birds, keep rocking the dad bods, and don't be Yankees fans. Have a good evening, everybody.